Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video, we're going to be comparing a 2022 Toyota RAV4 TRD to a 2023 Kia Sportage X Pro. Before we get into the video though, I do want to mention if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's go right into the comparison. Starting things off under the hood of the RAV4 TRD, we have a naturally aspirated 2.5 liter four cylinder that goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. It's good for 203 horsepower and then 184 pound-feet of torque, and well, it's all-wheel drive since it's the TRD off-road package. Now going from that over to the Sportage, we also have a naturally aspirated 2.5 liter four-cylinder that also goes through an 8-speed automatic transmission. However, it's got a little bit less power, 187 horsepower and then 178 pound-feet of torque, so it is down on horsepower and torque compared to the RAV4, but there is going to be a hybrid version available in the near future, which will be pretty powerful. Now going over the front end of the RAV4, first off, 8.6 inches of ground clearance with this TRD package, which is serious ground clearance. So you guys can see there with the new headlight design, definitely unique. And then you got the fog light down below that, and then notice how everything's kind of darker from a color perspective, just because it's the TRD package, so it's supposed to be a little bit sportier. And then you can see how the front bumper is shaped and everything. And, you know, it's got real TRD credentials, right? Look at the 4Runner compared to the RAV4 in terms of the aesthetic. But, yeah, I think it looks great from a front-end perspective. And then going over to the Sportage, we have 8.3 inches of ground clearance. I couldn't find this when I did the review on the car, which was interesting, but now it's finally out there. And you can see the new Kia logo, and then notice here with the black trim on the front end, you can see the trim down below that. And then notice how the whole front grille is also darkened from a color perspective. And then look at the headlights, definitely futuristic looking, that is for sure. I like them. I know it's weird how they look, but I like them. Got the fog lights down below, and then notice again, darker with the coloration. And you can see there with the molding there on the bottom of the bumper, similar to the RAV4s. So it's kind of interesting that they both kind of share that aesthetic, but just notice how like large the whole like grille setup is. It's definitely takes up a lot of the overall aesthetic of the Sportage. But yeah, I think they did a good job from a front end perspective of the Sportage as well. Now notice we have our off-road tire and wheel setup here with the RAV4 TRD, so you can see that we've got these completely blacked out wheels, which just look at the spoke design and everything. Again, it has that off-road theme. And then notice we've got these all-terrain tires. You've got the TRD tuned suspension, so you can see that finished in red. And then notice the molding there for the fender flare, and then you can see down on the side it's got the splash guards as well. Blacked out mirror cap. You can see the full side view again. Has that cool kind of like off-roader stance and appearance. And again, before anyone, gives me crap for saying that, 8.6 inches of ground clearance. And then notice same thing over here with the Sportage. You've got an off-road tire and wheel setup. And I'm glad that we've got smaller wheels on both of these. And so you actually have some sidewall on the tires, right? You guys can see there with the tread pattern. And then I didn't see anything in terms of the suspension tuning with this. So I think it's just all-wheel drive Sportage suspension, which gives it more ground clearance. And then you guys can see there with the mirror cap how that's blacked out. Got key essential for the door panel. All black roof, which looks really cool. Like you can see the contrast in the green and the black. And I think that just looks great. And popping back over to the RAV4, double tap for the lock function and stuff to the remote start. And this says RAV4 there on the back. Then you have the opening for the hatch. And it's practical. So you can see you've got a cargo cover here in the rear of the RAV4. Get your TRD off-road floor mat down below. And other than that, though, you can see there's a 12-volt, there's a full power outlet. You got like the spare tire underneath as well. But it's pretty normal from a rear perspective. And then you press that to lower down the hatch, and takes a minute longer. Boom, there we go. So finishing things up with the rest of the rear, you can see there with the RAV4 taillights, they didn't really change that for this little refresh, but also the badges are blacked out as part of the TRD off-road package. You can see the dual outlet exhaust tips on either side. And yeah, again, I think it looks great from a rear end perspective. Notice we have a little bit more of an easy to use remote start function, and then you've got all the key fob functions here on the side of the key fob, which is kind of unique, kind of interesting. And then we've got an automatic hatch just like the RAV4. And popping here, you can see with the cargo cover in the back, and then you can see the netting below that, and then you got a little 12-volt there. And notice the spare tire underneath with that. And I mean, other than that, again, there's nothing too crazy happening with the rear, but they're both pretty similar from a storage perspective. And got a button on the hatch just like the RAV4 to lower it down. And then finishing things up with the rest of the rear, you can see here with the taillight design, I think this looks a little bit cooler, a little bit more modern. I don't know, it's definitely unique how it goes into like the black trim in the center. It's not a light bar, but it has that appearance in the daytime because it's all connected. Got the new Kia logo, got your X Pro badge right there, so you can flex on everyone that you have the off-road package and have over 8 inches of ground clearance in your sport utility vehicle. Parking sensors in the rear. And again, I actually think it looks really good. And then popping over to the RAV4, you can see you've got the red stitching here, and then notice the padding there all over the door panel. You can see the aggressive grab handle, and I love how the speaker for the sound system looks. Kind of has a rugged appearance. And then notice here with the seats, so you can see the padding again. You've got that rugged appearance in the center portion of the seat. Room back there is great. Got some vents, and then you got some USB ports as well. And then notice with the cup holder armrest situation, and popping from that to the Sportage. Love that green. Again, it's so interesting. Now you can see here with the door panel, and notice the padding on the armrest. And just notice how this looks a little bit more upscale. It's kind of what Kia and Hyundai are going for with their cars, to kind of, give you more of an upscale appearance at a, affordable price point. And then you can see here with the seat, again, kind of has an interesting pattern there in the center. It's kind of like Kia was taking notes from Toyota. It's like that Mr. Bean meme or whatever. But yeah, you can see with the recline function, nice and comfortable. You've got nice storage space there. You've got some vents, got a cup holder armrest, all the stuff that you'd want. And then popping back to the RAV4 TRD, you can see here with the front door panel, again, that theme continues with the padding and the red stitching, got all of your window controls. You can see with the mirror adjustments and the mirrors themselves. And then you got your TRD there in the headrest with the front seat on both sides. And then you can see that same pattern continues in the center. You got the bolstering there. Red stitching as well. Then notice normal pedal layout. Then you got stuff like your hood latch release, for example. And then you got stuff for like the heated steering wheel and, the hatch, sorry. And then notice with the little storage cubby there, and then going back over to the Sportage, look at the door panel, again with the gray trim, and just notice how they kind of just, with how everything's like shaped, and with the black trim and the wood trim and everything, a little bit more of a luxury appearance is kind of what it has. And then same thing here with the front seats. Just look at the design on that. It looks pretty cool if you ask me. And then notice the adjustments are on the side of the seat. And then you can see here with the pedals down below, a little bit more premium looking. Then also with the parking brakes, stability control, and the steering wheel is manually adjustable there on the Sportage. But popping back into the RAV4 TRD, got a cool little animation here with the startup. It's all the mountains you'll be climbing with the RAV4 TRD, of course. Then here's a quick look at the steering wheel. So notice the padding all around. No red stitching in the interior of the steering wheel. I thought that's a missed opportunity. Got the cruise control though, volume controls for the center stack as well. You got your turn signal light stock, windshield wiper stock, all that normal stuff. And then popping to the gauge cluster, notice it's red and aggressive on either side to kind of go with the TRD theme. And of course, there's a bunch of different menus that you can scroll through there in the center to see different bits of vehicle information. And you've got some different drive modes as well. Notice how it makes it red and aggressive. You go into like sport mode, for example. And then you actually have an off-road mode, right? You got your mud, sand, rock, and dirt. And so it's cool that you have, regular on-road modes and then off-road modes as well. And then here's the backup camera. So you can see, pretty solid system. Trajectory lines turn to the steering wheel. And that's for rest, the infotainment system. You got buttons on either side. They're kind of like shortcut buttons. And then you can see responsive, the screen's solid as well. And so they did a good job overall with the RAV4 TRD in terms of the usability. And then you'll also notice here with the stitching down below, dual zone climate controls, heated and cooled seats with the RAV4 TRD, so you're living the life of luxury. Got display control, and then you can see there with the storage space, again, it has that rugged appearance. And then notice with the parking brake there, and then the shifter for the 8-speed automatic. And then notice here with our drive modes select, so you can see how it's like got a bunch of different buttons for the drive modes. It's a lot happening all in one place, and there is hill descent control too. But you know, it's pretty self-explanatory. Notice how the dial changes color too. I thought that was kind of a cool feature that Toyota added. And then you can see you've got some cup holders here with the red trim, and then no storage space there in the center console. You can see the stitching there on the dash, and notice again with the more storage space right there. And then we've got the sunroof situation here at the top, and then you can see you've got the little mirror there. And then going over the pricing with the RAV4 TRD, so this one's pretty loaded up, and you can see there with all options and everything. This one stickers, starting price is like $36,000 for the TRD package, but after all options and everything, stickers for just over $40,000. Button back over to the Sportage. Boom, cool little gauge sweep animation. So there is the steering wheel, so you can see with the stitching there in the center, nothing crazy happening with that. You have like steering assist, adaptive cruise control, normal stuff you expect kind of in a modern car. Same turn signal windshield wiper stock situation, or turn signal light stock windshield wiper stock rather. But going from that, we've got this cool digital gauge cluster. Again, kind of looks a little bit more futuristic, a little bit more modern with the overall setup. You can see different bits of info there in the center, just like the RAV4, like where your tire pressure is at, for example. And then you can see with the drive modes, changes a massive amount. I love it. The only downside though is notice there's not really any off-road modes. So I thought that was kind of interesting, that it's just the regular Sportage modes. They didn't add any specific off-road modes like what Toyota did with the RAV4 TRD. And then from a camera system perspective, notice we got a backup camera, but we also have bird's eye view. So we definitely do have a little bit more of a practical camera system. And notice how you can see this like 360 shot of the Sportage, which is kind of interesting. And yeah, so I think, like I said, I think that they did a little bit of a better job from a camera perspective with this, just because of all the different viewpoints, and resolution is slightly nicer. And then notice turn signal camera too on top of that. So like there's just a lot of little nice features here. And then as for the infotainment system, giant touchscreen, so it's a little bit bigger, and it's just touchscreen. There's not a bunch of physical buttons. So if you like physical buttons, RAV4. If you like big touchscreens, this has a big touchscreen, and it's kind of like all in one little cluster. So I don't really have a preference one over the other. I think they're both great systems, but in different ways. Got the hazard light button down below, and then more of that wood trim, and you guys can see the overall design here. And again, notice how they just try to make it look a little bit more upscale rather than just rugged and utilitarian like the RAV4. Here is pretty interesting. So notice that it's on like stuff for the infotainment system, navigation, everything, and then you press the climate button and it turns into a climate control thing, right? I know people are gonna be commenting, well, I don't want to deal with that when it breaks. Okay, I agree with you on that, but it's still cool. Notice we got some USBs down there, wireless phone charger, shifter for the 8-speed automatic transmission. And then heated cooled seats, heated steering wheel, a few cup holders. And they're very interesting. They're like super over-engineered, but it works. And then we do have some off-road text. We got hill descent control just like the RAV4 auto hold. You got auto stop start, parking sensors, and then you got the button for the camera system. And then we do have a center locker. A lot of people always ask about this. So I think Mercedes is the best way to kind of like describe this, and I'll talk about it at the end. But yeah, center locker with the Sportage. And then you guys can see here with the panoramic sunroof, definitely a nice luxury feature to have. And here's a window sticker now. This is an X Pro Prestige. So you can see the standard equipment that comes with it, and most everything is standard. There's a few options added to this particular one. But you can see the base price on them is pretty close, $36,000. but fully optioned out. This one stickers for a little bit less. It's like 30. We'll see it in a second. It's like 38,000 after all options. So yeah, you can see base price 36,000, total price $36,000. And so yeah, let's kind of sum things up with this comparison. So yeah, the Sportage is a little bit less expensive. Now, from an exterior aesthetics perspective, I think that's just going to depend on which one you like. I think they both look great. I love the red on that RAV4, but I love the green on the Sportage. And so I can't really pick a winner from that perspective. I know it's a cop-out, but I like them both for different reasons. Now, interior depends on what you want. I like the red accenting in the RAV4 interior, but the Sportage definitely has a more like modern-looking, more luxury-looking interior. So again, that's just going to depend. But the RAV4 definitely has that cool drive mode select. That's definitely a highlight of the interior there. And then panoramic center from the Sportage is nice. So the Sportage definitely feels like a little bit more upscale. And then from a power performance perspective, right, the RAV4 does have a little bit more horsepower, a little bit more torque, but they're so close that it's pretty similar from acceleration perspective. And then ride quality, all that kind of stuff on road. I haven't taken either of them off-road, but what I can tell you is they're both smooth, and since you have a little more sidewall on the tire, it actually helps out with the ride quality. So that's definitely a benefit. They're both similar from a ground clearance perspective. Now, off-road capability, this is where things get kind of interesting. So again, ground clearance is similar with both of them. Both have nice, aggressive tires, but again, they're ultimately both, you know, unibody SUVs. And so there's only so much they're going to be able to do from an off-road perspective. I see, you know, most people never taking these off-road, but if they do, it's like just going to be short little camping adventures. And, you know, tech is pretty similar. The Sportage does have the center locker, but the thing is, a center locker doesn't do nearly as much as what like a rear or front locker would do. And that's why I said Mercedes would be a good way to explain this. It's like with the G-Wagon, it has a center, front, and rear locker. The center locker is the thing that you lock first, and it basically just makes it so there's more of an even power distribution from the front to the rear. And a lot of all-wheel drive systems do that already. And so it's like cool that the Sportage has that where a button where you can press that, but it's like it's going to help you out a little bit, but it's not going to help you out as much as if it had a actual rear locker or if it had an actual front locker as well. And so I imagine both of them are going to be pretty identical from an off-road perspective, right? Because ground clearance is similar, because they're both all-wheel drive unibody SUVs. And so I think it's ultimately just going to come down to which interior and exterior do you like better. I think it's going to be less about the off-road capability with these two packages. So let me know which one you guys would pick.